Hi, I'm Dr. Jacob Larson, and this is Read, Write, and Cite, a channel where I teach you how to read, write, and cite for your college classes. In this video, we're going to be talking about 3 reasons why they teach literature in school. So let's get into it. So this is based on my experience. There's no place to look for any official reason why literature is taught in school, why you, if you're taking this class from me, are required to read literature and write about it. This is from my experience. I've come up with 3 reasons why I think it's going on. First of which is it's tradition. The history of education in Western civilization. We started out with basically there's 2 reasons why people got an education. They were able to either they're training for a job, so like that vocational track, or they were getting a well-rounded education because they were, some wealthy heir, and they were going to go run family business or become a prince or something like that. That's kind of the 2 tracks of education historically, until we get to the point in time to where in America and other places we're like, let's teach everybody and let's make it free. And then eventually we got this idea that the purpose of school was for a job, and that extra thing, that traditional part of it that's like, well, we're just trying to educate people and make them well-rounded. Its utility has lost focus. And so when we're in school, we're like, well, what's the point of this? You're right. It's not there to teach you how to do better at your job. It's not what it's there for. So it's tradition. Number 2, well, we continue to teach literature in school for cultural, for historical significance. This is the best example I can think of. If you watched Captain America movies, right? So he was he was trapped on ice for about 60, 80 years, something like that. He's thawed out and he's missed a lot from society and from culture. And so at one point, I think it's Winter Soldier, he has a list of all the things that he has to, all the movies he has to see, all the music he has to listen to catch up on society because he missed it. Well, that's a form of literature. A lot of the literature that we think of today that's older, as classical, it was just popular in its day. Shakespeare, maybe we don't think of Shakespeare this way, but the reason why Shakespeare's work is still around today is because he was popular. Today's popular literature or forms of art, whether it's movies, TVs, plays, poetry, stories, in the future, some of the most prominent of it is what we're going to think of as literature later on, just because it was popular. And it's become part of the culture of what people think of as representative. It's just kind of permeated. Reference to Star Wars are just everywhere. Is it literature? Well, it's kind of become that, right? But then there's the historical side. There is the historical significance of important documents from literature or just things that represent different time periods. One of the books that's taught in a lot of schools is Diary of Anne Frank. She wasn't a renowned writer, but she was a girl that wrote down her experience in occupied Nazi territory in World War II. It ended tragically, and maybe that's one reason why it's even more significant, is we hear her story that we wouldn't have been able to hear it otherwise. It was published after she passed away. So there's a lot of examples like that it's culture, it's historical. Maybe people just think it's a good example from a certain time period. And then reason number 3. This is what I think is perhaps the most important reason why we study literature. And that's because it can get us talking, not just about the literature, but because literature can represent the world that we live in. It represents society. It gives us an opportunity to look at a story that might mirror some of the things that are happening or have happened, maybe that we're afraid will happen in the future. And it gives us an opportunity to talk about it. And it takes some of the tension away from talking about actual current events or but we can talk about a character and a story, and there's going to be a relationship to it. There's a lot of examples of this. You think of George Orwell writing in 1984 or Animal Farm or something like that. They're thinly veiled representations of governments that he just didn't agree with, right? Or you think of more recently Hunger Games. And the Hunger Games, it's talking about a tyrannical government in the distant future in this kind of post-apocalyptic world. And it's not too hard to think, well, okay, the haves and the have-nots. Well, I mean, that's what caused multiple revolutions in France and could cause future revolutions in the future. If the haves have too much and the have-nots don't have enough, well, the have-nots are going to want to come back. But we can talk about it in a story or in a movie version of it. Science fiction and fantasy are really good at this. But there's other forms of literature that they get you talking. They promote great discussion in a classroom environment, whether it's high school or college. Gets you talking about what's going on. You can relate to it because we can see ourselves in those characters, but also it's distant enough we can realize, okay, that's not me, but maybe what would I do in that situation? These are all reasons why we might talk about literature in school. So, one, I mean, it's tradition. Two, there's cultural and historical significance. And three, it gets us talking about things that are happening now and learning and discussing and communicating. It's not so much that we have to know these stories, but there's a lot of benefits from that, the process of discussing literature. So anyway, what do you think? Do you think those are good enough reasons to continue to study literature? Do you think there's other reasons I didn't bring up? I'd love to see what you think in the comments. Maybe we can have our own discussion. And that's it. I'm Dr. Jacob Larson. This has been Read, Write, and Cite. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.